I think that ties into my next, overreaction that Brian Flores is a better defensive mind than Mike Zimmer. For as much as Mike Zimmer hated Kirk Cousins, they were kind of similar and they needed near perfect conditions to succeed. And I know that Zimmer developed some guys. Zimmer kind of made some. A lot of people want to look at the wild card win over New Orleans with that scheme,
Xavier
basically
Rhodes.
leading them to victory in that game. However, you look at his past, Dallas defense. Oh, yeah, he developed Deion Sanders. We were also working with Deion Sanders, who was good with the 49ers and the Falcons before he got to Dallas.
Yeah, DeMarcus Ware too.
Yeah, I think so towards the end. So 2 Hall of Famers on defense that'll help. Cincinnati defense, give him plenty of credit because he took a lot of guys who were misfits on that team and he shaped them up. So you want to give him some credit there? Go ahead. But then you think about the Vikings. His first free agent signing was Linval Joseph, a defensive tackle. His first draft pick was Anthony Barr, an edge rusher. He had a generational draft class in 2015. Yeah, Zimmer's a good coach. And again, I think he should be in the Ring of Honor by the end of his career. At the same time, you can look at Mike Zimmer and said he had a lot of talent to work with and a lot of guys who are going to wind up in the Vikings Ring of Honor, partially because of him, but partially because they were great athletes. Once those guys left in 2019, 2020, Mike Zimmer basically held his breath and stomped his feet because he didn't get what he wanted to replace them. And then you have Brian Flores come to Minnesota. Now I'm skipping over the Ed Donatel year because whatever. Ooh. That was awful. Yeah. The guy that Kevin O'Connell wanted to beat in the back of the head with a board in a picture that I saw, but that's nothing here or there. Brian Flores doesn't have a lot on that 2023 defense. He doesn't have the guys that he wants, right? So he drops a freaking college defense on the NFL and goes, hey, try and remember how to solve this. And teams kind of adapted towards the end of the year. So you're kind of like, maybe the carriage is turning into a pumpkin. But the Vikings finished 15th in the NFL in defense after finishing dead last in 2022. Last offseason, yeah, he gets his guys. And I don't want to give too much away here with our next segment, but this defense punched Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy in the mouth on Sunday. And it would not have mattered if Christian McCaffrey was in this game. Brian Flores has found a way not only to integrate the new pieces that the Vikings have signed, but he's gotten the most out of the incumbents. Mike Zimmer said there were no good players in the 2021 third round, huh? They didn't get the players I wanted. Patrick Jones has 4 sacks in the first 2 games. And yes, part of it is because Brian Flores is scheming sacks for him. But he's also finding success that Mike Zimmer, we can't even put him on the field. We can't. What do you want me to do? Cam Bynum has been unleashed. Judd Zolgad mentioned that this morning on Purple Daily that Brian Flores is just playing positionless football. He's putting guys out there that fit his game plan the best, and he just rolls with it. He doesn't overthink things. He doesn't, Anthony Barr can only play this role. He cannot rush the passer. He can only play as the Sam linebacker or whatever it was. Brian Flores doesn't do that. And then you have Josh Metellus, who's like the number one example of positionless football because he just flies all over the field and makes plays. We're 2 games in and really 19 in the Brian Flores era, but I'm taking it over 2017 Mike Zimmer for sure. And that's not a slight to Zimmer. Brian Flores has just done that good of a job with this defense. So give him as much money as he wants. Tell him he'll never have to deal with a quarterback again, and we'll just have a great defense for the next 10 years.
So you want him to be like the Steve Spagnuolo that the Chiefs have?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Fine. That's fine. But back in the day, like the 90s and 80s, guys just used to be coordinators for like their whole life.
Monty Kiffin, top 4.
Yeah, who's the dude from the Steelers? Dick LeBeau?
Yeah, he tried to be a head coach a couple of times, and it was like, nah, you're just a coordinator.
Jerry Burns, before he was the Vikings head coach, he was their offensive coordinator for 15, 20 years. Mm-hmm. And being a coordinator is not that bad. You get to do what you love. You don't have to worry about all the bullshit that comes with being a head coach where you got to put out so many different fires everywhere.
You don't have to have forced 45-minute meetings with your
Right.
quarterbacks every
You
week.
can meet with the quarterback. I'm sure. You know what? I'm sure actually that Brian Flores talked to Sam Darnold this week before the Niners game because he probably wanted to find out some stuff. And I'm sure he didn't go to Sam Darnold and was like, "You suck. You're terrible. You're a bust. You're never going to make it." But don't ask people who love Tua about that either. Who's an entirely different conversation right now. But yeah, like Brian Flores, I said last week that I don't think he's gonna be around with the Vikings next year, but yeah, I feel like he's going to weigh his options heavily after this year for sure because he's got it pretty good here with the Vikings. He's able to get whatever players he wants pretty much. They're gonna have even more cap space next year. Seems like he's getting what he wants in terms of draft picks for how he wants to fit his scheme. And opposing quarterbacks have no answer. Like they're throwing, they're getting good passing yardage, but they're not coming up with big plays really. Like what's the biggest play? I can't even think of like the biggest play that a team has had on the Vikings this year. Was it like Jordan Mason's touchdown run yesterday? Like
Maybe.
the longest plays have been like 20 yards.
I mean, they had 400 yards, but they only had 17 points.
Yeah, but
offensive genius Kyle Shanahan was held to 17 points. So
yeah. So yeah, and with Mike Zimmer, I agree that he at least towards the end, he needed a lot to go his way. And you think about it, like maybe some of his successes during his time with the Vikings had to do more with the coaches he hired because you had Jerry Gray as the defensive backs coach for a long time when he was with the Vikings and Jonathan Gannon. And so they helped with like Xavier Rhodes and some of those guys back there. And then you think about Andre Patterson on the defensive line and how he was so vital in the development of like Everson Griffin, Daniil Hunter, even Linval Joseph, some of those guys. So Zimmer also benefited from his coaching staff, which is what Kevin O'Connell is doing right now as well. But he's also an offensive coach, so he gets to worry about the offense, and Flores gets to worry about the defense. But I don't think that's an overreaction, especially what we saw yesterday from the Cowboys defense when little old Clint Kubiak just ripped Zimmer a new one yesterday with his
I forgot
show on
about
Turf
that aspect of
2.0
that game.
Yeah,
where